All right, so welcome everyone. We are on week 4 of our Veteran Woman Entrepreneur Grant Training, and we have Patrick again from UTA VBOC, and he's going to be talking about marketing. And I'm not sure if, so we have Kimberly. I'm not sure if everybody's met her. She's our new statewide program manager. And then we also have Barbara is on. She's our program coordinator. And everybody knows Stephanie because she was on. She's, I think, been on pretty much all the time. So without further ado, Patrick, we're going to turn it over to you because I know marketing is there's a lot to talk about. And so we can get to it.
There we go. So I pulled up an email that I sent out. Well, let me start by saying greetings, everyone. Hi, ladies. Welcome back. And again, congratulations on the opportunity that you have before you. I hope after our time last week that you stopped shooting from the hip, making decisions about your business, and you started actually looking at your numbers and making decisions based upon what the numbers tell you to do. When to add an employee, when to add inventory, when to add space, or whatever it is that you need to move your business to the next level. Let the numbers speak to you. So tonight we're going to be talking about marketing. And I want to start by making a clear distinction between the crucial elements of marketing. So this is an email that I sent out to our clients. And the email has, has 3 attachments to it. And I'll open up and share those attachments in a minute. But I kind of want to just walk through the email real quickly. Is everyone seeing my screen? Looks like they are. So it's important that you understand that you can't really do any marketing until you've done your market research. They go hand in hand. Because you're marketing to a specific audience. You're marketing, and by definition, the market is the customer. The customer is the one who gives you the money. So in essence, market research is customer research, which means it's your job to learn everything it is that you need to know about your customer, right? So when Mercedes-Benz markets the best or nothing, which is their slogan, they know everything they need to know about people who want the best or nothing. When BMW markets the ultimate driving machine, they know everything they need to know about people who are interested in driving the ultimate driving machine. Both of those cars are luxury cars in some way, shape, or form, but they have very different audiences that they market to, as identified in their slogan, the ultimate driving machine, or the best or nothing. If I were to ask you what's the safest vehicle on the planet right now, what would you guys say? What would you ladies say? You're muted, Donalisa.
Subaru.
I heard you say Subaru.
Volvo.
Volvo. Donalisa said Volvo. Anybody else want to chime in?
I've heard Subaru.
Yeah, it's funny. I keep hearing that more and more as I ask that question, and it kind of blows up my example. So I'm going to stick with Volvo, right? Not because I think it's the safest vehicle in the market, but because they've done a great job telling you that they're the safest vehicle in the market, right? And that's marketing, right? But the reason they've done that is because Volvo knows everything there is to know about the people who take safety to heart, the people who are looking for a safe vehicle. They started with the soccer moms, and they started with the folks that were driving around in crowds, and they started with the folks who were doing long commutes and things of that nature. And all their marketing was about how safe this vehicle was. But I would venture to guess that today, there's not a single vehicle that comes off an assembly line that doesn't have a 5-star safety rating. I just don't believe it, right? I haven't done the research to prove it, but I don't believe that there's a vehicle that comes off an assembly line today that doesn't have a 5-star safety rating. That doesn't mean there's not even 6 and 7 stars today. But if 5 stars was the standard, it's still a good standard, right? 5-star safety rating. And Volvo did a really good job. And they did that because they did their market research and they understand all the concerns and the problems and the issue that people who want to drive that vehicle have. So understanding your customer and the competitive environment is critically important for you to be able to market in that environment. And oftentimes what happens is a small business owner is thinking about the marketing tools, the marketing resources, and how they interact with those marketing resources and how they're attracted to those marketing resources. And what I mean by that is the new entrepreneur and the new owner is thinking, well, I got to do something on social media. Well, how do you know? Well, I got to do something on Facebook, or I got to do something on Pinterest, or I got to do something on TikTok, or all the different types of social media that are out there. Or I got to do something, I got to have business cards. Well, how do you know? Right? And the answer to that question is, you know, from your market research. The market research will tell you exactly what it is that you need to do. So I'm going to stop sharing that screen and I'm going to share one of the first tools up here. And that is this one right here, which is the marketing plan itself. So we give this to our clients. And as you can see down the left-hand side, it has a year on it from January through December. And you can change those depending upon when you start your year. And across the top, it has all of these different marketing tools. And when I send this out to clients, typically when they send it back to me, what they've done is they put an X in this box, and they put an X in this box, and they put an X in this box, and an X in this box. And what that tells me is that they don't really understand marketing. What it tells me is that they're focused on the tools themselves and not the totality of marketing itself. But let's think like they think and think the way that probably many of you are thinking right now as well. There may be some methods up here. There may be some missing methods up here, right? You may be thinking about some other methods that are not listed up here, and that's fine. You can always strike out some of the methods that are up here, and you can put in your own methods, or you can just extend this table and add more methods to the end of it because it's actually an Excel spreadsheet. I'm just looking at the PDF version of it right now. All right. So if I sent this sheet to you right now and I said, I want to see your 1-year marketing plan, Barbara, what would you do with this sheet?
I guess I'd better get my contacts in order so I can make some
Okay.
phone calls.
That
Get
better?
some networking going on.
Okay. Don't hide from me, Barbara. I saw you muted yourself. You can keep
Oh, I
going.
thought you were going around the room. I didn't
No,
want to.
keep it going. What would you do with this sheet? Before you send it back to me, what would you do with it?
Well, like I said, I'd get my contacts in order and start making appointments,
Okay.
setting up some kind of mail campaign. Not sure I have much funding for advertising, but certainly there's some other stuff I could be doing, getting my website set up if I haven't done that already. Thinking of some ideas that I can use for press releases.
Okay.
Basically all those nice columns you have there.
Okay. And then how about you? Let's see who else we got on here. Let me scroll down. I missed some folks last time. How about you, Dana? What would you do with this sheet?
So I would begin making phone calls. Our clients would be businesses, so they're easy targets since they have their business numbers listed and they have operation hours. So I begin like counting the number of shops, the number of phone calls I made and actually reached someone or didn't reach someone, and then follow up for the ones that I did reach and have a plan and schedule a day where I would actually call back and try to reach someone if I didn't make a connection. And Also, like, as far as promotional, since, automotive techs would be the guys that, or the shop owners or service managers will be the guys that make the phone call to schedule our services. Just going by, especially on hot days, providing like ice creams or something like that to, make friends with the workers and things like that, just to get the name out there. That's
Okay.
fine.
Good. Now, you guys not seeing me bounce around the screen. You're still seeing my original screen, right?
Yes, I see the marketing plan, the one you're working.
Okay, good, because I'm bouncing around here in the background, pulling up something else. So Kelly, how about you? What would you do with this sheet?
Good evening, everyone. I want to apologize in advance if you hear my little girls in the background. So for me, my go-to is really directory sites because I want to understand, like, do they have businesses? Do they focus on providing services already for breastfeeding employees? Because that is a requirement per federal legislation. So I would look at directory sites first, and based on that, I would just generate a sales forecast and identify some potential leads from the directory sites. And under the phone calls, the screen is like kind of grayish now, but I would generate some phone calls, I guess, per month, how many phone calls I'm going to make per month based on those leads I've identified via that directory site. And then just, that's my main, I guess, way that I do it now. And then also direct mail, networking events, and trade shows and conventions. But for me, just hearing what you said just now, Patrick, when you said you have to understand like the customer better. And I think that's what I kind of lacked at first. I'm thinking everyone wants to support breastfeeding mothers, but truly that's not the case. So for me, I need to understand what businesses already have, incentive packages for the employees and how they want to extend that beyond the workplace into events. And so that just get me thinking further about that.
Awesome. So thank you, ladies, for sharing the three great examples. So let me tell you how the document was intended to be used, right? Because you all just responded the same way that most of our clients do. And it's really good. I'm glad that you respond that way because it helps me to understand where to start when I'm working one-on-one with you to help you move forward. But anytime I get a document, I always start at the top of the document. So this says this is a marketing plan. And all three of you went directly into marketing. You automatically jumped in and you started shooting from the hip and saying, I'm going to make these calls and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And that's what business owners do. Especially that's what solo entrepreneurs do. They don't really have a plan that they're executing from. What they're really doing is they know what they need to do and they just start doing it. But without a plan, it also means that you're probably not doing an effective job tracking it as well, right? And I did hear, I think it was Dana that said she would be tracking her calls and seeing how many calls she made before she actually connected with somebody and so forth. So it's good to hear you say that, Dana. But the way this tool was designed to be used is, let's just say let's say our fiscal year goes from July to July. So I'm gonna start here in July right now. Well, let's start with August. Our business is going to start in August. We're going to get things going and we're going to circle around and come all the way back to July. That'll be a full year for us. I'm going to sit here and on this chart, I'm going to say in August, are phone calls going to be one of the tools that I use in order to capture my clients? That's yes or no. I am going to use it or I'm not going to use it. If I say yes, then I'm going to say, well, how many phone calls am I going to make? And that's what I'm going to put in here in this column right here. Let's just say my number is, make my math easy. Let's just say my number is 300 phone calls. That's 10 calls a day. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to put 300 in there. Outside sales, that means that I'm in my business. Am I doing any outside sales versus inside sales? Inside sales I think telemarketing. outside sales, I think I'm going out door to door, face to face. You can define these terms any way you want to. That's the definition I'm using as I'm putting the sheet together for my business, right? So outside sales is when I'm going out and I'm going face to face with somebody. And let's just say, if I'm doing 300 phone calls, which is 10 phone calls a day, in my outside sales, I'm going to do maybe 5 outside sales a week, right? So 4 weeks in a month, I'm going to put 20 in that column right there and say 20 for outside sales. Am I going to do any trade shows or conventions in August? In August, I'm not doing any. I'm going to reserve that because I am going to do a trade show in October. So I'm going to leave that blank. Then I'm going to promotional events. Am I doing any promotional events? In my case, a promotional event is I might do a free seminar, or I might do a free workshop or something of that nature, or I might show up on a podcast somewhere, and that becomes my promotional event. Does that make sense to everyone? So I'm going to put in here any promotional events that I'm going to do, the number of promotion events I'm going to do. And then referrals. If I have a referral system, I'm going to say how many referrals I expect. So in my case, I have a referral system, and every time I get a client, my client signs a contract that says that they're going to give me 3 referrals. That's what they sign in their contract when they sign up as a client with me. So they're going to give me 3 referrals. So I count the number of phone calls at 300. And out of those 300 phone calls, I'm going to get 10% of them will turn into clients. 5% of them will turn into clients. So I'll get 15 clients out of that. So out of that 15 clients, 3 referrals per client, I'm going to get 45 referrals. Ladies, see what I'm doing? So now I got 45 referrals I'm getting. And then I just go all the way across the chart. If I'm using it, I'm using it. If I'm not using it, I'm not. If I'm using that tool, I'm using that tool. If I'm not using that tool, I'm not using that tool. So on and so forth. And then I do that for each and every month. And now I've got a foundational plan that says, this is how I'm going to market myself. This is how I'm going to attract customers. So let me go back real quickly and go back to the definitions that we were looking at. And that was right here. So marketing is the process you use to attract customers. So everything you saw in that chart is what I'm going to be doing to attract customers. Those are the activities. Am I sharing that email?
Yes, and we also
Okay.
have a question in the chat, Patrick,
Okay, I'm
about,
sorry, I wasn't watching the chat. So ladies, just open up your mic and ask the question, because I don't do a good job watching the chat. So go ahead, what's your question?
it was from Kimberly. She said, what do those referrals look like? Connecting us with someone or giving us an agency that might be interested?
It's exclusive to your business. So in my case, a referral is you give me a name and a phone number and an email address. So give me some contact information and anything that you know about that particular person as to why you referred them to me. So when I get a client that comes in as a coaching client, I always ask my clients, well, why did you hire me? Why did you come? Why did you choose me as your coach? And who else do you know that might look, act, feel, and think like you? And so when they give me a referral, my expectation is that they're referring me to people who look, think, and act like them. So I'm asking for a name, a phone number, and why do you think they look, think, and act like you? Why do you think they might need some coaching? That's what's on the referral forms that I receive from my clients. So in your case, if you're getting a referral, what are you wanting to be referred to? Do you want to be, let's say right now you're in a capital campaign and you're looking to raise some money. Maybe the referrals that you're looking for is referrals to financial institutions at this moment in time. Maybe the referrals that you're looking for at this time is the big businesses that who was it? I'm sorry. 1 second. Like Kelly said, maybe you're looking for referrals to businesses that have certain types of HR programs or HR processes in place, right? So you got a group of friends, and these friends all work for different companies, and you let them know, hey, I'm looking for companies that have this type of HR scenario. this type of HR situation, and those are referrals that you're looking for. So does that answer your question on referrals?
Yes, it does. I didn't know how to ask. I guess I asked for testimonials, but not necessarily referrals. And so I didn't know how to approach that, I guess.
Yeah, so
So
when
that
you
helped.
ask
Thank
for,
you.
when you ask for testimonials, what you're doing is you're capturing another marketing tool. It's another tool that you can use to share with potential customers and to share with the market that's out there and to say, hey, look what everybody says about me, and look what the benefits of everybody's saying about me. But a referral is somebody's actually referring you something that you actually need, right? Something that you can use to move forward in your business. In my case, it's a client. So and I don't know what you're looking for at that moment in time, but understand that marketing is the process of attracting customers. Sales is the process of capturing the customer. So once you've actually attract the customers and you draw on their attention, now you got to sell them, right? And too often we think marketing is sales and sales is marketing, or not. They're two very distinct activities. There's things that you have to do to attract the customer and get the customer interested in turning their head towards you. And then after they turn their head towards you, you've got to validate to them that you can solve their problem. And that's how the sale is actually made. Service is the process of retaining customers. So once you've made that person a customer, there's a way that you have to serve them in order to get them to keep coming back and so forth.
Hey, Patrick, Kelly's got her hand up.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Hey, Patrick. So I do have a question. Do you
Mhm.
recommend just focusing on one type of referral? Because I need a lot of, I would like a lot of things to help me move my business forward, but in specific right now, clients, like as you said, or businesses to secure the events. But there's some other things I need too. But do you recommend just focusing on one specific type of referral at a time?
No, I recommend that you focus on what you have the bandwidth to focus on, right?
Okay.
So and that's the reason why we did the plan in the first place, right? Because with the plan, I've now got the entire picture in front of me, and I can see all the different options and all the different opportunities that I have. And I can move certain activities from one month to the next month and the next month to the next month. And I might be doing 3 or 4 different marketing activities in August and 3 or 4 different ones in September. I may be overlapping some of those activities in October, but I may have dropped off an activity that I did in August that I'm not doing in October. But when I've got that big picture in front of me, I know when I'm doing this. And so now my mind's not clouded with me shooting from the hip saying, oh, I need to call so-and-so today. Oh, I need to make phone call. Oh, I need to get that ad together. And my head's not clouded with all the possible things that I could be doing to capture a customer, right? To attract the customer to my business, because I planned it out. I literally sit there on that chart that we looked at and I said, in January, I'm going to do this. In February, I'm going to do this. And I can always go back to that chart and move things. If I do something in January and it works really, really well, but in my original plan, I said I'm going to do it once a quarter. So I had it set in there for January and then for April and then for July, so forth, because I planned to do it once a quarter, but I did it in January and it worked really, really well. I'm probably going to do it again in February. I'm just going to go ahead and repeat that same process again in February to see how it works again. And if it really works, then that's something I'm probably going to do every month, and I'll move it into every month. But in my original plan, I planned for it that I'm going to do it once a quarter. The same thing as I'm looking at television advertisement or newspaper advertisement or social media pay-per-click advertising or whatever the case may be. I may have said I'm going to do pay-per-clicks. I'm going to spend $100 on pay-per-clicks in February, and I'm going to do this once a quarter. But something happened in February where pay-per-clicks just shot through the roof, and it brought me all types of customers. And when it did that, I'm going to turn around and do it again in March, right? So I'm just going to adjust my plan and do it again in March. But having that full picture in front of me allows me to make that adjustment instead of shooting from the hip and thinking, well, what should I do now? What should I do next? Does that make sense, everyone? So again, I apologize for reading from the screen, and I didn't put this in PowerPoint slide point because I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything. But marketing takes time, and what's that second word right there that I just highlighted? Can you ladies read that?
Money.
Money takes time, takes money, so on and so forth. So with that said, let me show you what goes along with that handout. And that's this handout right here. Where is it? This one. So now here's the money handout and the tracking. Right? So I start with market research. Did I spend any time and money doing research to learn everything that I could about customers, and how much did it cost me to get that done? If you're using your small business development center, if you're using your women's business center, if you're using Donna Lisa and the team over there at the Texas Women's University, VBox, SCORE, all of these resources, you can reduce the cost of that market research because we all have tools that can help you get that market research done. Keep this in mind. Market research is customer research. You're researching the customer. You're not researching your product. You're not researching the process. You're not researching the industry. You're researching those who actually have the potential to buy from you. What are they thinking? How are they behaving? Where are they hanging out at? How much money are they spending? All those things. And we'll get to that in a moment. But right now I'm working through the plan. So I want to know what the cost is. What is the cost for my communication tools? What are the costs for my brochures? What am I spending? If I'm doing any mailing, postcards, stamps, flyers, what does it cost me to print all this? My assistant told me today we spent $137 last month on flyers. I asked her, can we print some more flyers this month? She asked me, how many do I want? And I'm sitting here thinking, well, do I want to spend another $137? It sounds trite, but that's the reality, right? I've got to decide. Do I want to spend more money for more flyers? And so I said to her, you know what? Let's just do this. Print me one flyer with a QR code on it. I'm going to take that flyer and I'm going to put it inside of a what do you call it? Plexiglass stand. And people can come up to the plexiglass stand and they can scan the QR code, and I don't have to keep printing money on flyers. Because I was passing flyers out at all these events. Well, I'm going to stop passing out flyers, right? That $137 makes a difference. If I can just put it in a plexiglass and people can walk up and scan the QR code. That makes sense? But that comes from me looking over here and saying, well, there's some situations where I want a flyer. There's some situations where I want a poster, I want a mailer, so on and so forth. Business cards. Do I need business cards? I got QR codes on my business cards now. So when I'm handing out a business card, I flip it over and I say, why don't you scan this code? And I put the card back in my pocket. If they want the card, I give them the card. But I first give them the option of scanning the QR code so I can put that card back in my pocket. It seems trite, it seems trivial. But as a business owner, I have to be conscious of that, right? And you have to be conscious of that. Same thing, are you going to do radio? Television is actually cheaper than you think it is. It really is, and I'll talk to you about that. I had a contest in, I forget when the contest was. It was just a couple of months ago, working with Spectrum Reach, and Spectrum Reach gave away $15,000 worth of free commercial advertising to 4 of our clients, right? So we gave away $60,000 worth of commercial advertising, and so forth. So same thing with magazines. I was working today with US Veteran Magazine, and we created a collaboration. So instead of paying for me to put an ad in US Veteran Magazine, I wrote an article. They published my article, and the article links to my website. So that's as good as having an ad, right? So there's ways that you can do this. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but you can see all the different things that are right here. But the reason I pulled this sheet up is because I wanted you to see this column right here. In an Excel spreadsheet, you can add up all your costs and know what it's going to cost you. And you can decide whether you're going to keep paying that cost or not paying that cost, so on and so forth. This frequency right here, if you go back to the original chart that you guys were looking at, and I said I'm going to do something once per quarter. So this frequency is based upon a year. So I would have said 4 times for that item if I'm doing it once a quarter. I would have said 12 times if I'm doing it every month. That would be my frequency. But this is just an example. This is not a required form or anything. It's an example of the way that you track your marketing activities, your marketing dollars, and so forth. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay, so let me jump out of that and jump back over here. So when you're doing your marketing, I'll just jump down to here. This is what you are learning about your customer. The tendency is for you to come out and start doing marketing because you're thinking like you're the customer and you're not the customer. You're the proprietor. You're not the customer. You may be a product of the product and using your own product, but you're still not the customer, and all the customers don't think like you. They don't all behave like you, so on and so forth. So what you've got to do when you're doing your market research, the question that you're asking is, what is the place that these customers hang out at? Where are they? What's the place? Where are my customers? So let's use Kelly, for example. Kelly she sets up her mobile milk station at conferences and events and things of that nature. So ideally, in a lot of cases, we think the end user is the customer. So some of you may be thinking her customer is the ones who are actually doing the nursing. But Kelly, is the ones doing the nursing your actual customer?
No, the event planners.
Right, the event planner is your customer. So where do event planners hang out?
Different conventions on the specific events that they have necessary to
Okay.
their business.
Aren't they usually at the events that they're doing?
What did you just say, Kimberly?
I said, aren't
Okay.
they usually at the events that they're doing?
Yeah.
Okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take a quick look. Let me pull it up on my screen. I want you to take a quick look at the chat, Kelly. And I want to ask you, have you been there?
No.
Everybody-
Event Planners Association? No.
Everybody see what I put in the chat for Kelly?
I saw it just now. I haven't been there.
So see, if your customers event planners, you got to figure out where the event planners are. And more than likely, there's an association of them. And this is where they come to gather information, to get educated, to speak the same language, to network with one another, so on and so forth. So while you're running around, I'm going to be your competition, Kelly. While you're running around chasing down one event planner at a time, going from event to event and looking at events, trying to figure out who the event planner is and trying to meet the event planner, I'm simply going to join the Event Planners Association. I'm going to go to their meeting and I'm going to be surrounded by thousands of event planners all at one time. I'm going to find out if they have a publication or if they have a blog or if they have any other type of tool that all of these event planners are connected to and having a conversation with one another. And I'm going to publish an article in their blog, in their newspaper, I'm going to go where the event planners are, and I'm going to speak the language of the event planners because that's who I'm after,
So
right?
with some of those costs, I mean, some of those have fees, and like there's some grant writing or collectives and associations and nonprofit development associations, but they
Exactly.
cost, I mean, so when do you decide if it's worth being a part of that or not?
So what I always do is I first always ask the association or the organization, is there a trial membership? Can I come and hang out with you? I don't know whether this association is the right association for me. How many meetings can I attend before I have to decide whether or not I'm going to actually join? Most associations, 30 to 90 days, right? 1 to 3 meetings you can attend, you can go to, so on and so forth. They have scholarships for their events. They have all different types of ways to attract you to becoming a member of their association or their organization, right? and so forth. So I always start by saying, do you have a trial membership? And what's the best way for me to learn whether or not this organization is the right organization for me? And I tell them about their competition, right? I said, because I saw this organization and I saw that organization, and I'm not real sure which one I need to join. Why should I join your organization instead of organization A instead of organization B? And make them court me, right? Make them court me and want me to become a part of their association and so forth, right? And I just do that by asking questions, looking for opportunities. So the same thing, you're trying to automatically set up as a vendor because what you're doing is you're trying to go in and sell. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to go in and create a relationship. I'm trying to create a relationship so that I'm seen as the expert and the resource that they turn to for the product or service that I provide. So when I first started doing motivational speaking, I was speaking in high school and college campuses, and there's an organization called the Association for Campus Activities. It's where all the activity directors from college campuses all across the nation, they all belong to this Association of Campus Activities. And so instead of me trying to contact each and every college to try and figure out how I can come and show up on their campus, I joined the Association of Campus Activities and went to the Association of Campus Activities events. I started writing articles and I started getting in their newsletter and things of that nature. And I became recognized and known as the expert in this area. And then I had campus activities directors that were contacting me because I had built relationships with them. Does that make sense, everyone? So my point again is, just using Kelly as an example, is you can go from event to event and look at the event organizer and figure out who that event organizer is, and then go through the process of contacting and tracking that event organizer. Or you can find an association like the Event Planners Association and get a directory listing, right? Because they have a listing of all of their members. So you can get a directory, and sometimes you can get the listing without being a member, right? So it just depends. You always get an answer to the question that you ask. So just ask the question. How do I get a listing of the members? They'll tell you, well, you've got to be a member. Okay, so what does it take to become a member? So then you ask yourself, if it costs you $100 to become a member, and the membership directory has 500 names on it, with the contact information for each one of their members, is it worth spending the $100 to become a member? Right? For me, that's almost a no-brainer. And like Kimberly asked, you've got all of these different groups that are out there. You got to decide, going back to the original chart that we looked at, where networking was one of the columns, you got to decide where you're going to spend your networking time, right? So going back to the original chart that we were looking at, you got to decide in this networking column, what does that really mean? Well, networking means joining the association. It means going to a meetup, right? When I became the director of the Veterans Business Outreach Center, I was going to every veteran meetup known to man in North Texas. Man, it was burning me out. There's a meetup every day. I don't have the bandwidth or the time or the energy or the desire to be at every veteran networking event. So I had to step back and I had to look at it, and I could say, which one of these veteran events cater to entrepreneurs, right? And which one, because that was my space, is the entrepreneur space. I'm not trying to go to the veteran event that's focused on homelessness. I'm not trying to go to the veteran event that's focused on mental illness or physical incapacity. I'm not trying to go to those veteran events. I'm trying to go to veteran events where I can find veteran small business owners and connect with them and let them know about the resources that we have available. So I had to narrow it down that way. But then there's still a long list of those networking events and meetups and so forth. So I had to go, and some of them want you to join and some of them want you to pay. And I had to go and say, so what's the trial period? How many meetings can I come to before I have to join? Right? So on and so forth. Or I have to find a way to barter and say, like I did with one networking group, I said, what if I did this? what if instead of me paying your membership dues, what if I offered a free assessment to each one of your new members, and you can add that as a value add for all your new members? They all get a free business assessment, right? Because it really doesn't cost me much to do the business assessment. I have tools that do that. I have folks fill out a form, they fill out a form, and I put it in my tools, and the tools go through and do the business assessment. So I can always use that as a bartering tool when I'm speaking to an organization. I can say to the organization, hey, I can offer this free assessment to your members in exchange for a membership. I'm an author of 2 books, and so I've got an inventory of books.
Is that like an assessment that you've done, like that can be repeated, or?
Yes.
Because I think where I get overwhelmed on my marketing is doing something different every time. Like, and I'm trying to find things that I can use that are repeat themselves, or that are can be used more, numerous times. So if that makes sense. So when you say assessment, like I'm trying to think of ideas as well. And so when you say assessment, like there's assessments I can do, and there's kind of like some funnels that I can do, and guides that I can provide for free. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit?
No, I think you already answered it. It's whatever value you can bring to the organization. So in my case, I'm always doing assessments on the status of the business or the state of the business, or I'm doing a leadership assessment. That's another assessment that I have available. Or I'm doing a financial literacy assessment to find out where people are financially, because that's part of my background. So I have multiple assessments that I can use as tools to barter with and so forth. So you have to look in your toolbox and say, what value can you bring to an organization versus in exchange for not having to spend your dollars, right? And if you have those tools that are available, you can barter those tools in exchange for not having to spend your dollars to do that. For example, today I was on the phone with a media company, and I can use Spectrum Reach, for example. Spectrum Reach is the marketing arm for Spectrum Cable TV, right? They run all the marketing and all the TV commercials that you see that show up in Spectrum. They're run through Spectrum Reach. And so Spectrum Reach wanted access to all of our veterans, right? They want to be able to market to the veterans and get veterans to start doing television commercials. So I said to Spectrum Reach, I'm not just going to give you access to our database where you can just start calling all the veterans. Why don't we do this? Let's see if we can make a fair trade, right? You give X number of my veterans free commercials, let them give you some testimonies about how those commercials work. And now you can use those testimonies in your advertisement to attract other veterans, so on and so forth. And so that was part of the bartering that we did. And that's what enabled us to create that relationship where they gave away $60,000 worth of free commercial advertising and so forth. And they did that. Why? Because they wanted, our database is 17,000 strong. They wanted access to they wanted to be able to talk to 17,000 veterans about their commercials. So Kimberly, I guess that's a long answer to your question. But the short answer to your question is you have to look in your own toolbox of value added services and products that you have, and you just package it as a value add in exchange for something that you want. But my point going back here was, I was talking about this section on networking. This networking section is anything that you're doing to have face-to-face contact with groups of people. So that's joining associations, that's going to meetups, that's going to happy hours, anything that you're doing to network, and you got to space that time out. You can't go to every event. Every event will be a waste of your time. You got to space that out. You got to say, I'm going to go to meetups once a quarter. That's what I do. I go to, there's a veteran morning formation. I'm going tomorrow. There's a veteran morning formation that meets every month. I go once a quarter. That's it. I can't go every month. Right? I go once a quarter. There's no value in me being there once a month. No value for me, and there's no value that I can bring to them by being there every single month. The same thing across the board, speaking engagement. This is a great way to market your business, Kelly. And who was that? I think it was Barbara, remind me of your business again?
I work for the Center for Women Entrepreneurs.
Oh, I'm sorry, Barbara.
That's okay.
That's Bernadine.
Can you repeat that again?
Remind me of your business again.
It is professional development.
All right, so you do professional development. So you ought to be pretty good at speaking.
I
Right?
hope.
Right? Facilitating the speaking, you ought to be pretty good at it. Well, here's a great way to market your business, right? Speaking engagements. There's an organization out there known as Speaker Co-op. They meet every month here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Are you familiar with Speaker Co-op?
No, I'm writing it down right now.
Yeah, it's a group of professional speakers. You can find them on meetup.com. But they come together every month, and it's like that association that we just talked about with Kelly, right?
Mhm.
So this is a group, and they share speaking engagements with one another. So I spoke at this association meeting last year. They don't want me to come back and speak this year. I'm going to pass that referral on. I'm going to refer them to you so you can speak at that association meeting this year. And that's what they do. They pass off speaking engagements from one to the other. And they practice speaking with one another at their meetings. They get a chance to alternate on who's going to do the presentation, so on and so forth. But it's an organization called Speaker Co-op.
Okay.
And so forth. But that's a speaking engage, and they talk about specifically how to use speaking engagements to build your business, whatever business it is that you're in. In Kelly's case, Kelly, you could talk about if I were Kelly and I were doing this mobile nursing unit, I would be doing speaking. I would try to get on the stage at the association meeting for event planners. I would try to become one of their speakers and talk to them about compliance. That would be, they would bring me in and I would come in and I would be speaking on compliance and talking to them about the different things that they can do for compliance. And then I would just toss in, here's one of the things that you can do for compliance. And that is you can always have one of these mobile nursing units on your site. So I'm not talking about mobile nursing unit, I'm talking about compliance. Talking about something else that's important to the entire association. So you can use a speaking engagement. But my point again is I've got this entire plan in front of me. I can add things across the top to the plan of different things that I'm going to do. I can get rid of stuff that I'm not going to do, so on and so forth. And I can juggle around when I'm going to do it. So I'm not wasting my brain power shooting from the hip saying, well, this week, this month, this day, I'm going to do this. Instead, I've got a plan that says I can go to it. And then going back to what Kimberly asked about earlier, you know, I can literally figure it out. Kimberly saying that, you know, she wants to try different things. Well, Kimberly, if you're not working from some sort of chart like this or some other tracking tool, how do you know it's time to switch to something else? How do you know that you gave the thing that you did today enough time to have its impact? And that's an actual question for you, Kimberly.
Yeah, I think, I mean, going, some of the things you said as far as, you know, making sure you're splitting up your time, I was going to every meeting, every chamber luncheon, every group organization, every event, and it wasn't really a plan. I was just trying to, it was exhausting, I guess, in a way. And so what would I do moving forward, I guess, to answer your question, is having, I mean, I want to have, I have all these ideas, I guess, and I don't know how to be most efficient at it. And I think, I mean, marketing is actually probably my biggest challenge or struggle, which is, you know, what I had put in this grant application as well.
Right.
So, I mean, this is all helpful. And I've talked to you before, Patrick, but it's just a lot, I think.
Yeah, so Donna Lisa, thank you for putting that in the chat. She put on Women Rise, how to make money speaking, and so forth. Thank you for sharing that. But addressing Kimberly's concern, it's everything that you do in business is overwhelming when you do it without a plan. I can just promise you that. Everything you do in business is overwhelming when you do it with a plan. when you take the time to sit down and put a plan together, you can now control the momentum. You can control your energy. You can control your activities. It might still seem overwhelming because this chart can get pretty full and you can look at it, but you're in control of it. If the chart's full, just erase something off the chart and say, I'm not going to do that this month. I'm going to push that into the next month. Or I'm not going to spend money here. Instead, I'm going to spend money there. And with the chart in front of you and having a tool of some sort like this in front of you, you get an opportunity to control some of that overwhelming thing that happens when you're shooting from the hip and trying to figure out, man, there's a meeting tomorrow and there's a meeting next week. And man, this ad is due and this, and I got to turn this in. And man, I sure want to write a blog. And man, I thought I was going to post this on social media. And all that's in here, right? You can literally, I have a chart for social media plan, right? I've got charts for everything. And you guys can ask us, I think, was it Stephanie, did you do Growth Wheel?
I'm sorry, did I do what?
Growth Wheel?
I did.
You did Growth Wheel.
Myself
I
as
see.
well as Kimberly.
Okay,
that's
so
on our
both you and
company.
Kimberly have access to the Growth Wheel tool. So there's Growth Wheel tools that are available that you can get from Stephanie and a couple of other folks that are out there, where you can have the tracking sheets that you need for whatever that you're working on. So if you got social media over here and you're looking in the social media column, it's not enough to just say, I'm going to do social media in January, I'm going to do social media in February, I'm going to do social media in March. No, get one of the Growth Wheel tools for social media, and the social media tool for Growth Wheel, it literally breaks it down to you. I'm going to do how much I'm going to do for pay for clicks, what I'm going to do on search engine optimization, what I'm going to do in terms of, I don't speak that language very well, but you ladies get the point. And what I'm saying is, for each one of these up here, there's a tool that's available to help you fine tune your efforts in that area when you're on that effort, going back to Kelly's point. Do you focus on one thing at a time? No, you focus on what you have the bandwidth for. So if I have the bandwidth to go to a networking meeting, my referrals are automated, so I don't have to worry about that. As much of this that you can automate is great, right? My phone calls, I use an outside service to narrow down my phone calls so that I'm only making phone calls to the warm contacts. I have an outside service that's making phone calls to this long list of contacts. They narrow it down to the folks who've responded from the long list. And now I get the short list of folks who want to hear from me. And I only have to make phone calls to the short list of folks who want to hear from me. Does that make sense? So there's ways that you can make this process more productive using outside resources. So let's go back to what this lesson tonight is all about, and that's marketing. So we looked at all the different marketing tools that are there. We looked at how important it is for you to do, let me back up. We looked at how important it is for you to do market research. You can't do marketing until you know who you're marketing to, right? So you got to do the research. You got to know everything there is to know about them. That includes the demographics. What are the demographics, Bernadine?
So for mine,
Hmm?
the demographics. Well, it would be companies. So I'm looking at the different companies, their leadership teams. Go ahead.
What size companies? I mean, you got $10 million companies, you got $1 million companies, you got $500,000 companies, you got companies with 1 million employees. I'm exaggerating. You got companies with 5 employees. What type of companies do you? It makes a difference. You don't get to market to American Airlines the same way that you market to HEB or groceries, the same way that you market to T-Mobile. All of these companies, they make purchases and they hire outside contractors using different methods and different tools. And so until you know your customer, how do you market to them?
Yeah, this information tonight has been like very eye-opening.
Okay.
Because I'm in deep thought of, okay, so in the research, what companies do I want to market to, or do I just want to do it with school districts, or do I want to do nonprofits?
Right. So you could do it by geography, you could do it by industry, you could do it by size of company, you can do it by revenue, but you got to make that decision. It's your choice, but you got to make that decision. And where you start doesn't have to be where you finish. Today, you might say, I'm going to spend this year building my expertise and my relationships with school districts. And that's where I'm going to market myself. And you target school districts and you focus on school districts and you build a reputation with school districts and you get testimonials from school district officials and so on and so forth. And then next year you come out and you say, well, I'm expanding my market. I don't just work with school districts, but I also work with companies that are in the healthcare industry. And now you start talking to all of these healthcare companies. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
It requires different efforts, different energy levels, and different tools for you to go and market to a healthcare company than it does for you to go and market to a school district, than it does for you to go to market to a Fortune 500 company. So you got to identify exactly who is my customer and how does my customer make their buying decisions? How do they make their decisions about who they're going to do business with? How do they make those decisions? Do they make if you're doing business with the federal government has a buying list, right? So they make, if you're not on the buying list, they can't do business with you for certain agencies. And then they make their decisions based upon lowest cost, no matter what. They have to choose the lowest cost proposal unless they come back and justify why they didn't choose the lowest cost proposal. And many of them are not willing to fill out that justification. They're just going to go ahead and go with the lowest cost because all the proposals have to meet the guidelines. So they know that every proposal is going to meet the guideline. And they don't get to decide which one is better. They just get to decide which one's cheaper. When you understand that about your customer, then now I know that I got to go in and shoot with my lowest possible cost. It doesn't matter how good I think I am or what extra service I think I can provide. The proposal that the federal government asked for, they asked for point A, B, C, and D. Did I give them A, B, C, and D? And I got to give them A, B, C, and D at the lowest cost. That's what I got to do if I'm going to win, right? That's part of it. The other side of it is relationship, right? Because people do business with people they like, they know, and they trust, and you find a way to build a relationship. But it comes back to market research and knowing your customer. You got to know how they buy, how often they buy, when they buy, why do they buy? What problem are they trying to solve when they buy? Are they trying to solve a compliance problem? Are they trying to add more value to their service, to their events? I keep picking on Kelly because she's stuck in my brain here. Are they trying to solve a compliance problem? Or are they trying to add value to their events? You might find an event planner who's saying, you know what? Our events are going great. We're in compliant. I just need to add more value to get more people to show up at the event. And I think that this mobile milk station will add more value to our event. It'll attract more women. I think it'll attract more women to our event. I don't know if that's the reason why. The reason why it might be a compliance. It might be a number of, but you have to know that. You have to know why. So you got to be asking your current customers, why did you hire me? Why did you bring me to your event? Right? The customers that you currently have. Kimberly, why, and Bernadine, why did you hire me? Why did you bring me in to do professional development? Why aren't you doing professional development internally? Why isn't your staff doing the professional development? Right? And so forth, and answering those questions. So after you've done your market research, then you've got to go back and now create a plan that surrounds that that's in alignment with that market research, right? Create a plan that's in alignment with that market research. Am I watching my time right, Donalisa?
You're good. We're at 7 o'clock, Patrick.
Okay.
Yep.
So now you got to create a plan that aligns with your market research. If in your market research you find out that the bulk of your customers hang out around this blog, they're all subscribers to this social media channel, or they're all following this social media influencer, or they all hang out at this nightclub, or they all go to this party, whatever the case may be that you find out about your customers, now you got to put yourself in that position. They're all members of this association. They all attend this meeting every year, right? I know that in government contracting, the federal government has a government contracting meeting every year in November, and every government agency is at that meeting. Every government agency is at that meeting. So if you're thinking to do government contracting with any federal government agency, you would be foolish not to go to that meeting. Just to be in the environment and connect with and meet the people that are in that environment. If you realize that, you know, you ladies, forgive me for going on a tangent here for this quick second. Social media is in my brain right now, and I'm thinking about this young lady. I may have mentioned her to you ladies before, but she eats seafood. And she's got hundreds of thousands of followers, and all she does on social media, she's got a YouTube channel, and all she does is smack and eat seafood. Anybody know who I'm talking about? Stephanie, you laughing. You don't know what I'm talking about?
I
Somebody
guarantee you,
got-
my daughter probably does, but I.
Oh, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to me. But the reality is she knows marketing. She is a marketing guru. All she does is, imagine me sitting on YouTube right now, and this is some seafood. And all I'm doing is putting the seafood in my mouth, and I'm making all these smacking sounds. And my video probably lasts 3 minutes, and I'm just making smack. Oh man, this is so, and I'm slurping and all of this, and then I close my channel. That's it. Then I come back and I do another video tomorrow. This lady has got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of followers. And now who you think now promotes her and is trying to link to her YouTube channel for folks so that they can connect to her followers?
Everybody that sells seafood.
Everybody who sells seafood. Every Long John Silver's, Papa Do's, every seafood restaurant known to man. If you go to this young lady's YouTube channel, you're gonna get pop-ups from every last seafood channel, every last seafood vendor that you can think of, because she's created this following. And she did it simply by recognizing, not that you wanted to hear her smack seafood, but she recognized you're not her customer. Her customer is all those companies that are trying to sell you seafood. Those are her customers. And what they want is access to her followers. And so what she said is, what do I need to do to build my list of followers? And she realized that we as a society, we are into entertainment. We will tune in to whatever entertains us. And I probably said this to you ladies before. We'll spend, $199 to go see a comedian in concert, but we won't spend $149 to go to an event that could change our life, right? So on and so forth. And she recognizes this. She recognized that people want to be entertained, and there are certain people who are going to be entertained by watching her smack seafood. And that's all she does. I'm kid you not, she does nothing else except sit there and make slurping sounds, and it's gross. I mean, literally gross. She makes slurping sounds and gross sounds, and she fills her mouth, food hanging all out of her mouth. She's talking and she's spitting while she's talking. It's uncouth and so forth. But you can't fault her for being an excellent marketer. She knew exactly what she was doing to market to her customers which are the seafood companies who want access to all of those followers. My wife's into natural hair care. And my wife is up every morning at 4 o'clock in the morning and she's on YouTube and she's watching these YouTube videos. This is her downtime in the morning. That's how she starts her day. So she's watching these YouTube videos. And I can remember a number of years ago, she called me into the kitchen where she was watching this YouTube video. And she says, look, and she's showing me the young lady on the YouTube video. And that same evening, that young lady was on a Walmart commercial. The young lady who was the social media influencer putting together this YouTube video is now in a Walmart commercial. Why? Because Walmart knows that she now has a recognizable face from all the followers that she has on YouTube. So I said all that to say that once you know your customers and you create this plan in alignment with the customers that you know, your plan, it has to have enough frequency in it for you to continue to connect to your followers and build relationship with your followers. That's what marketing is designed to do. Some of you are old enough to know this when I say it. How do you spell relief? Go ahead, Kimberly.
I remember the commercial. I'm trying to remember what it was. It was, how do you spell relief? And it was the spelling of the product.
ROLAIDS, Rolaids.
Right? And we all know that's not actually how relief is spelled, right, from the dictionary. But we call that spaced repetition, right? That commercial came on so often that people associated relief with ROLAIDS. I had some around here. I don't have any in here right now. But what is a Kleenex?
A what?
Right? There you
Oh.
go. Now, let me ask you a question, Donna Lisa. Is that actually Kleenex brand?
No, it's Puffs and it's actually a tissue, but everybody calls them Kleenexes.
Everybody calls them Kleenex, right? Because Kleenex did such a great job with their spaced repetition and their brand development that we now call every tissue, we call it a Kleenex. We don't call it a tissue, we call it a Kleenex, so on and so forth. And that's the space that you are trying to get into your customer's mind. And you do that with frequency. So Kimberly, while you're trying to jump from one marketing technique to another marketing technique to another marketing technique, you can't ignore the fact that frequency and spaced repetition is what plants your product and or service into the mind of your customer. So you've got to ask yourself, did you stay with that particular tool enough to create the frequency enough for folks to identify you and your product or service and connect to your brand before you jumped on to something else, right? There's a point where you as a business owner have got to make a decision and say, you know what? This is not cost effective. I've done this for 3 months now and I hadn't gotten one single bite. And I'm spending X amount of, I get that, right? And maybe, I don't know what your time frame is, whether it's 30 days, 3 months, 6 months. You've got to make that decision as a business owner, but you've got to be measuring it, right? You've got to be measuring it and so forth. So it was, who was it? Dana that talked about making phone calls. Then I actually have a phone call tracking sheet, right? When I was doing all my phone calls before I sent it out to a service, I have a tracking sheet called a ROMAR, Record of My Activity Sheet, ROMAR. I'll send it to you, to Donna Lisa. But it's called the Record of My Activity Sheet. And as a result of using that sheet, I learned what my formula was. My formula, I'll put it in the chat for you ladies. Here is my telemarketing formula. And I found out that it works in a lot of cases, so it may not just be mine. Here's the chat over here. It's 25, 15, 8, 5, 3, 1. That's my telemarketing sheet. That's me. I make 25 phone calls to set 15 appointments. Out of those 15 appointments, 8 appointments actually happened because the other 7, the dog eats the cat, the mama don't show up, something happens and the other 7 just do not show up. Out of those 8 appointments, I literally get 5 of them who actually say they want to do business with me. Actually, 5 of them say, yeah, you know what? I like your product and service. Let's go ahead and do that. I apologize for that. I'm sorry, I got to do this. This is my wife. I never don't answer my wife. Hey, sweetheart, I'm in a call. You okay? Okay. All right. Bye, baby. Yeah, so she made me a bachelor this week. She's in Los Angeles with her dad. But he says, so after those 8 appointments, 5 people say, yes, I want to do business with you. And then 3 will actually do business with me. 3 will actually sign the paperwork, put the money on the table and do business with me. And 1 of them will ask me to mentor them. It never fails. That is my recipe right there. And so I had to ask myself, do I want to make those 25 calls when I know that only 15 of them are going to be appointments and only 8 of those appointments are going to show up? So I hired somebody to make the 25 calls to narrow it down to the 15. And then they narrow it down to the 8. So when I get on the phone, I'm only talking to the 8 people. And I'm getting 5 out of the 8 who actually want to do business with me and 3 of them that want to do business with me. I don't ever have to interact with those 25 and above. Does that make sense to everyone? So my point is, going back to my comment to Kimberly, those numbers represent the frequency that I discovered by just doing it. Right? I couldn't just, I don't just sit down and just start making phone calls and making phone calls and making phone calls. I was actually making tick marks on a piece of paper as I was making these phone. Actually, it was dialing, right? I was making tick marks every time I dialed. This is how anal I was. Making tick marks every time I dialed a number. And then every time they answered the phone, I'd turn that tick mark into a T. So I know that that's somebody who actually answered the phone. And that's where I started to get my numbers. So in front of that 25 calls that I made, there's a bunch of tick marks of calls that I'm making that are not even being answered. And that's what I farmed out to a service. You guys do all this dialing stuff and get through these tick marks and get it down to me where the people are answering the phone and they say they want to have a conversation with me, right? So Kimberly, that's the type of frequency that you have. It's not just on phone calls, but that might be on ads. How many pay-per-click ads do you have to do? And how many, I think it's less than 3% is what folks tell me. The data shows it's less than 3% actually respond to a social media advertising, right? Less than, and I think it's even smaller than that. I have to do the research to see what that number is, but it's a very, very small number. So if you do social media advertising, let's just say you're using pay-per-click as the advertisement, and your pay-per-click connects with 100 people, right? And you pay to click for 100 clicks, and 3 of those people become clients, you got to ask yourself, what's the value of those 3 people that became clients? In my case, that value is pretty high because I charge $500 an hour, $24,000 a year for 1 year of coaching. So I don't mind that I spent that much money on a pay-per-click, right? I don't mind that. But if my margins are smaller, I might mind having to spend that much money just to get 3 clients out of it. I'm happy to get 3 clients. I mean, that's 75, it's almost 75 grand. So for me to get 3 clients, I mean, that's happiness for me. Does that make sense? So you got to figure out what your margins are, going back to what we talked about last week, knowing your numbers so that you can market appropriately, right? So I've been yapping for, an hour and 15 minutes here. I'm going to yap a little slower and let this last 15 minutes, I want to answer any specific questions that you ladies have regarding marketing. And I'll start with one question. Have I shared anything of value to you today?
Yes.
Great. So what specific questions did you have, whether specific to your own marketing or marketing in general?
So I have a question. Do
Mhm.
we get the privilege of being able to have access to those documents you showed us?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I was trying to put them in the chat. I don't know if it'll let me. I'll try it one more time. If it doesn't let me put it in a chat, I'll email them to Donna Lisa, and then Donna Lisa can make them available to you.
Thank
Yep,
you.
I can do that.
Yeah, so I'll do that. But yeah, so, and again, these are tools that we use. You can find tools like this everywhere. What I would do, Bernadine, is both Stephanie and I think she said Kimberly have access to Growth Wheel tools. Growth Wheel has some pretty impressive tracking tools. So I might ask them for a tracking tool for marketing or a tracking tool for market research. Even though I think these are good tools, that's the reason I use them. But there are other tools that are out there, and you got to find a tool that works for you, right? For some of you, this is too laborious, and you don't want to do this stuff. I was okay doing the tick marks for a while. I don't want to do tick marks anymore, but it was part of the process that I had to go through, because as I think I mentioned to this, maybe I didn't, but I'll mention it now. As you're building your business, you should be thinking franchise. Listen to what I just said. As you're building your business, you should be thinking, I am going to franchise my business. I'm going to duplicate myself. That's how you should be thinking, which means that a business is a set of processes and systems. You are not the business. You are an employee. You might have probably the most valuable resource for your business, but the business is the set of processes and procedures that are in place. That's what a franchise is. So as you're building your business, you should be thinking about what are the different processes and documenting those processes and things that you go through in order to build the business, so that in the end, you have this standard operating procedure, a book that you can literally put in somebody else's hand and say, if you do this, your business will look like mine. Your business will operate like mine. Your business will move like mine. That's the mindset. And that comes from Mike Michaelowicz, who wrote the book Profit First. I think that was him who said that. Yeah, Mike Michaelowicz wrote a book called Profit First by Mike Michaelowicz. But he says that as you're building your business, you should build your business as though you're trying to create a franchise. So some of these tools may be over laborious for some of you, but it's the process that you have to go through initially to build your processes and build your procedures so that they're all in place and so forth, so you can figure out what works and what doesn't work. What other questions do you have? There's got to be. Come on, Sheree, I haven't heard you all night. Go ahead, Kimberly.
If you were awarded $5,000, what would you do for marketing a small business that's been around for less than 6 months?
Small business been around for less than 6 months, and I got $5,000. Well, I can tell you the very first thing that I would do is I would connect with all of my SBA resource partners and get as much free market research as I can get. And then if there was an opportunity for me to buy an inexpensive market research report, I would probably buy that market research report. I wouldn't spend a lot. I probably wouldn't spend, in your industry, if you get an industry report from IBISWorld, it tells you what % of your revenue should be spent on marketing, right? So if I pulled up an industry report and I'm looking at an industry report for Bernadine's industry on professional development, it might say in professional development, you should spend 3% of your revenue on, make my math easy, 10% of your revenue on marketing. So if I got $5,000, I'm not spending more than $500. I count that $500 as incoming revenue. I'm not spending more than $500 of it on marketing, right? I'm following the industry standard. If I'm a new business, I might spend a little more than the industry standard because I'm starting off from scratch and I can't do what the rest of the industry is doing because I'm not fully into the industry yet. I'm brand new. So maybe instead of spending 10%, maybe I spend 13% or 12% of my revenue, which is that $5,000 that came in. So that's what I do. I try to do things in percentages. I try to do it where it makes sense. The industry says I've spent this much. If I think I'm as good as the industry, I spend what the industry spends. If I think I'm not quite as good as the industry, I might have to spend a little bit more. If I think I'm better than the industry, then I spend a little bit less. It depends upon how I fit in that. So with that $5,000, first get free market research, purchase an inexpensive, not industry report. You can get industry data anywhere. A market report. Market is granular. It's down to the territory that you're dealing with. It's down to the customers that you're dealing with. And then what I might do is, depending on who my customer is, if I'm spending it on marketing, because that's the question that I was asked, I'm spending this on marketing. Depending upon who my customer is, I would try to get as close to my customer as I can, which means I would probably be paying an association fee, right? I would be joining some association where I can connect with and be a part of that association. And I'm probably paying for that association's annual event. I'm going to that association. That's me. That's what I would be doing, right? So in my case, the industry that I'm in, it has an association in it, right? The National Speakers Association and so forth. And then there's other organizations that I like to speak to and speak before, so forth. So I would pay my National Speaker Association dues, and I would already buy my airline, pay the registration fee for the national convention, buy my airline ticket and pay for my hotel. And I'm already on my way to that convention because I know the value that I'm going to get out of attending that particular convention and pretending and being a part of that event. That's me. Did that answer your question? Was that Kimberly?
Yes, it does. Do you have a recommendation of where to get those market reports?
Not really, because the best answer to that is the associations actually have the best marketing reports. That's the reason I connect to the association, right? The Meeting Planners Association, I promise you, they know everything there is to know about meeting planning, right? And they know whether or not the meeting planning industry is turning around or whether it's sinking. They know how many meetings are going to be executed next year. They know what the cost of these meetings are going to cost. They know what folks are going to like and what's going to draw folks to the meetings. So I'm trying to get as much data as I can from that association, from Bernadine, from the maybe a SHRM, what is that? Society of Human Resources Professionals. SHRM. Maybe I'm joining SHRM and I'm connecting with SHRM and going to SHRM events because they're responsible for HR development and professional development, stuff like that. So maybe I'm going to a SHRM event, and I trust you, SHRM has got every kind of report known to man, every kind of data known to man as it relates to HR and professional development and what it looks like in companies and what companies do it and what companies don't do it. All of that data, the associations have that data. And the same thing, Kimberly, did you tell me what your business was?
It's the nonprofit development. So I build nonprofits.
Right. So again, there's an association of nonprofits, right? All of these nonprofits are part of an association and so forth. And then there's small segments of different types of nonprofits, right? There's the family groups, there's the corporate, Walmart has Walmart Foundation. So the corporations have their nonprofits. And then you have all of these, what we call VSOs, veteran service organizations, which are all nonprofit. There's all these niches of nonprofits. So you may want to niche yourself and say what type of nonprofit you want to start working with and then expand to other nonprofits. Does that make sense? Instead of trying to capture every nonprofit known to man. Sharita, you had a comment. You were chiming in there. I hadn't heard you all night. What you got?
Well, what I just recently in the process of doing is we have what's called a lookbook with
Okay.
all of the products in it. And
Okay.
so about 200 of those and the little bags to put them on all the doors here in my neighborhood. and I'm gonna start with my neighborhood and then go out to other neighborhoods. But I know that's a lot of work because I got to do it myself.
So who else is old enough to know what a lookbook really is, right? What's a lookbook, ladies? Come on.
That's
We all
Mary
know what a
Kay's
lookbook-
book that has all the new looks in it with all the colors and all that kind of stuff. I get mine every, quarter?
Right? So, it's a Sears catalog, right?
No,
So
it's a
it's-
Mary Kay book.
I'm teasing. It's a Sears catalog, and so you have to think about how they marketed in the day. And in the back in the day, it was grassroots marketing. They went door to door and made sure everybody had one in there. But be careful, because in this day and age, right, while you're spending money on this lookbook and spending time, energy, and effort, ask your market where they're getting their looks from. Where are they? Would they be more excited about pulling up an application and seeing these looks on an application than they would be by flipping through pages and seeing it? I don't know, right? I'm just tossing that out there. And the reason I'm tossing that out there is because think of, what's the eyeglass company? Warby
Parker.
Warby Parker. That's what Warby Parker did, right? Warby Parker changed the whole dynamic of how we buy eyeglasses now. And they simply came up with an application where you can click on an application with your picture on the application, and you can put those glasses on your picture and see yourself wearing those glasses, so forth. So technology is shifting so fast, right? If your lookbook is not technology friendly, you may be leaving a bunch of customers on the table. Does that make sense? Right?
Makeup on, try, different colors and stuff. But a lot of the older customers, they still want to look at a book.
Exactly. Now watch this. I'm gonna coach you real quickly. Before you go door to door, you said older customers, which means you looked at a specific demographic that might be more likely to buy your product from you. Where can you go to find a group of these older customers and pass out a bunch of books instead of going door to door and putting a book on a doorstep where there's a young family, young couple who's never going to open up the book, and you wasted money, time, energy, and effort?
A bingo hall.
Oh, there she goes. She hit it. I'm telling, but I'm there. Yeah, bingo halls, your senior
Guaranteed.
there's all types of places where elderly people hang out, so on and so forth, where you get more mileage by going to a crowd of them and passing out your book to a crowd of them. You can go to a church, and a church has a senior group at the church where all the senior folks from the church, they have Bible study together, or they congregate. There's something the seniors are doing at the church together. And you can go and be a presenter. Remember, we talked about speaking for a living. So you can show up at a church, and I'm sorry, Donalise, I'm watching the time there. But you can show up at a church, right? Interact with a church and come in and be a presenter at a church. Got a whole group of folks that fit that demographic, age group, and lifestyle, whatever it is. And now your books are in the hands of people who open the books and look at the books instead of door to door. You drop books on multiple doorsteps of folks who are not even going to open the book. Wasted time, energy, effort, and money. Does that make sense? Awesome. Well, that's all my time left tonight, ladies. I got to.
I have a quick question, Patrick.
Go
Real
ahead,
quick.
Birdie.
So I know you quoted John Maxwell, and
Uh-huh.
I'm just wondering, are you a Maxwell member, and did you use
I am.
Okay, so do you use all their marketing resources as well, or?
All is not a fair response, because I gotta tell you, I've been with Jack Canfield, Les Brown, Tony Robbins, and I'm telling you, Bob, my brain just fried. But any sense, I've been with a number of them. Maxwell has such a slew of resources. There's no way I'll ever be able to use all of them. I use the ones that align with my customers, right? It's always about going back to the market research and saying what tools work best with your customers. So all of John Maxwell tools don't work with all of my customers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so would you recommend that, because I have that, so would you recommend that I start there and look at their marketing resources and?
Oh, man, I gotta tell you, Bernadine, you guys forgive me for dragging this on an extra minute here, but I gotta answer
Sorry.
this for Bernadine. If you're not using the JMT marketing resource tool,
I have it.
oh, man, Bernadine, I don't do any social media. I don't do any email. All of that stuff's in the JMT marketing tool.
Okay,
I go in every 6 months. I have an assistant who actually does it with me. I go in every 6 months and we sit there and we choose the campaigns that we're going to run for the next 6 months. And we plug those campaigns in and then we sit there. I got campaigns that are running right now. If you look at my social media right now, it all comes from JMT marketing tool on that side of my business. It all comes from JMT marketing tool. I'm not sitting there doing those posts every day. They come directly from that system.
thank you. Yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't used it in about a month and about 2 months, and then
Oh,
I need to
no.
get back to it. Okay,
Yeah, so just plug into me, and all of you can do that as well. alcornttg@gmail.com.
So
Just-
Kimberly, the JMT marketing tool is John Maxwell training. It's a specific to the John Maxwell coaching certification. So I believe it's only available to those individuals that are actually credentialed with John Maxwell, and it's part of their coaching package.
Right. But what's so neat about it is, and I'm sorry, Donna Lisa, but what's so neat about it is I own 2 of the tools. I use one of it for my VBOC and I use one of it for my personal business because it's such a great automated social marketing tool. So it makes sense for me to not do my own social marketing when I can just use that tool and plug in campaigns. Makes sense. But
Gotcha.
anyways, thank you, Donna Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Barbara. All of you ladies for the opportunity to share with you on marketing tonight. The secret is, how do you spell relief? Spaced repetition, right? That's
Yeah.
marketing. It's spaced repetition. You got to build enough relationship with your customer base so that you're top of mind and they start spelling things the way you want them to spell it instead of the way that it's actually spelled.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Patrick. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right. So really quick before everybody heads off, next week is our last week and we have, VR Small with Veteran Women's Enterprise Center, and she's going to be talking about the partnership advantage. It's a really great, workshop about partnering with maybe other people. So that's a really good, workshop. Does anybody have any questions or anything for us? I also wanted to share, so I put the June Women Rise in there. That was, so she specifically talked about how to get paid for speaking, even when you're not getting paid, like how to leverage, how to, decide which events you want to speak at. And then our Women Rise today, she did an actual, it was all about getting client leads. So I'll put that here in the chat as well. It's on our YouTube page. It was all about getting leads and the marketing funnel, the lead generation funnel and how to do that. And as a reminder, if you have any questions, if you have any business questions, I'm sure you're scheduling time with Stephanie. She's there to help you. Any specific grant questions, you need to email cwegrants@twu.edu, or you can put it inside a submittable. I know I've gotten a couple of people that have asked me specific questions about the grant. You'll need to email those to that email address or put them inside of Submittable. So that's because we filter all of that stuff and keep track of it. That's
Alrighty.
why we send
Looks
it
like
to
we've
there.
got some ladies from Breakout that are coming back into our big.
Oops, sorry.
I hope you guys enjoy the breakout session.
That was Stephanie doing the virtual hosting from this morning. So does anybody have any questions? All right, I know Patrick had a lot of stuff today and it was very easy to get overwhelmed. So again, if you need any help, you know, set up some time with Stephanie and I'm sure she will help walk you through everything. So. All right, well, have a nice evening. I will send out the replay tomorrow and we'll see you guys next week.